right. Good evening. Now 7 o'clock, and we'll go ahead and start the regular meeting of the Orion Township Planning Commission. And if I could have a roll call vote, please.
Damascus.
Present.
Gross.
Here.
St. Henry is absent with notice. Steimel.
Here.
Walker.
Here.
Reynolds is absent with notice. Harris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And as a reminder, we will have a public hearing at 7:05 where we'll recess our regular meeting to go into the public hearing for PC 2019-15. That will be the public hearing portion where the applicant will have a chance to give a presentation, then of course the public, so we can hear from you. This matter will also be in front of this commission later this evening for some action and potential, so we'll wait for our deliberation for that a little later. So we'll get to that in just a few moments. With that, we'll keep kind of just going through our agenda here to set things up before we recess at 7:05 for that public hearing. So in our regular agenda, our next item is item number 3, and we have 4 various sets of minutes before us this evening, all from our last meeting on April 17th. We have our regular planning meeting minutes. We have our conditional rezoning for Firestone public hearing minutes. We have 2 special land use minutes, one for State and Ridge Commercial for their public hearing, and also one for Tommy's Car Wash public hearing. Any discussion or I'll entertain a motion on any or all of the minutes?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the minutes for Planning Commission meetings of April 17th be approved as submitted.
Support.
Motion support. Any discussion on the motion? Any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay? All right, the minutes are approved. Now on to item number 4, which is our agenda review and approval.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the agenda as submitted be approved.
Support.
Motion support on the agenda. Any discussion on the agenda items? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right, our agenda is approved. Item number 5 is our brief public comment on any non-agenda items. So again, we'll have a public hearing in just a few minutes, and then also we have some other items before us. But if you have any other things that you'd like to bring forward to this body, please step forward and state your name and address for any non-agenda items. Seeing no takers, holding all for the other opportunities, that's fine. With that, we'll look at our next agenda item, which is item number 6, our consent agenda. We don't have any items under that, and it's about 7:05 now, so we'll go ahead and recess our regular meeting of the Planning Commission, and we're going to go ahead and open up at 7:05 the public hearing for PC 2019-15. That's Breckenridge Townhomes rezoning, and it's a request to rezone the southerly approximately 200 feet of parcel 0932400-055, and the southerly about 150 feet of parcel 0932400-057. It's unaddressed parcels, and they're currently zoned our single-family residential, our R1, and they're requesting to be rezoned to the Biz District, the Brown Road Innovation Zone, and within that, the use groups A, C, and D. With that, I'll ask the applicant to go ahead and state your name and address and come forth and give us, or the representative, or their applicant representative, that's fine, yeah. State your name and address. Yep, this is their chance first to give us an overview of the project, so we're going to have the applicant give us an overview of their project, what they have proposed, and then we'll give the public a chance to come up and direct their questions, comments to this board in 3 minutes, and then we'll have the applicant come back up and give them a chance to kind of respond to some of those, and then we'll give the audience to add any additional things in a limited amount of time if it's new information that's brought forth to also bring it up, and that's all part of the public hearing portion. Could you go ahead and state your name and address and give us an overview of the project for the public hearing?
Sure. My name is Chris Plum, representing Pulte Homes of Michigan, Director of Land, address 150 Bloomfield Hills Parkway, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. This item on the agenda is a precursor for the site plan approval or the site plan presentation I have later. It's somewhat straightforward. This is a rezoning proposal for the contiguous 2.75 acres south of the gas pipeline, contiguous to our proposed development. All of our proposed development is zone biz with the subclasses noted. This is really just to capture the orphan parcel from the pipeline, because if you look at the parcel boundaries on the screen, they extend beyond. So there is really no way for anything to be connected because of said pipeline. So with that, I don't have a formal presentation for the rezoning, so I'll defer to the commission in terms of what order we go in, but
Okay. Okay, thank you. At this time,
so the parcel boundaries are outlined in the gray color part of the pipeline. You can see that discoloration. That's here. So really, it's rezoning only this section that's south of the pipeline. There's a massive topography change with said pipeline. So really, it's only this sliver, not the entire parcel that runs through. It's everything related to Brown Road.
and then we have folks also tuning in, so if you step at the podium, just capulate that, and you can kind of use the cursor, but those listening in, so it's all just outlining the parcels there, just kind of, if you can just show it there, and then also for those who may have seen it, so you can just kind of recapitulate that.
Sure. So the rezoning impacts the 2.75 acres south of the pipeline. It is part of these two parcels that front Judah Road, part of Dan's Excavating's project there. There's a massive topography swing from north to south, the pipeline being a part of that as well. So there's no real connectivity as it stands today between the rezoning proposal and the parcels that front Judah.
Thank you. And now with that, we'll invite members of the public to come up and comment. If you'd please state your name and address when you step forward, and then make your comments towards the commission. We'll give you 3 minutes to talk, and we'll take notes on what you say. I'm sure the petitioner will as well. And then after you give your comments, we'll invite them to come back up, respond, and then if there's something new brought up, you can also have another opportunity to come back in 2 minutes and kind of say other things that may have brought up new from what you've heard. So please state your name and address, and give us an overview of your comments.
Sure. My name's Susan Steck, 3084 Judah Road. I have several concerns about this particular rezoning. I'm going to start off, though, by saying I don't believe that this was properly noticed. I am outside the 300-foot radius that is required by the Zoning Enabling Act. However, I saw the big sign, so I contacted the township offices, and the information I was provided shows that the notice only went to the southern side of Judah Road and only went to 5 particular properties. Per the Zoning Enabling Act, Section 125.3103, regarding the notice, it should be given to all persons whom real property is assessed within 300 feet of the property. Based on what I was given, it looks like it was done from the center of the property and not the property lines, and a significant number of people would have been left out of that particular notice. Furthermore, a quick search of the online archives show that there is nothing in the Lake Orion Review under their public notices, which I suppose that's possible that it got missed from the electronic version of the newspaper, but it'd be nice to see if there's an affidavit that accompanies that publication, as there should be. Additional concerns that I have is, when considering rezonings, you are supposed to look at the other properties, whether or not it's suitable. And I would like to point out that there are 14 other properties that are currently zoned Brown Road Innovation Zone that are immediately adjacent to this proposed project. That totals out to be approximately 5 acres, which is more than what they are requesting. Furthermore, there is approximately 11 units, I think, that could go into this particular section. There's no reason that it needs to intrude upon the currently residentially zoned district, because as your planner has pointed out in the review letter, that is inconsistent with your master plan and the future land use plan that is outlined in that. And considering your master plan is only 4 years old, I think it's a little early to start kind of giving away the farm in terms of allowing rezonings that are contrary to the master plan. You just did it like back in January with a property across from Baldwin Road at Morgan. So I think this is an opportunity for you all to get back to adhering to the master plan, or possibly amending your master plan if that's the direction that you want to go. One of the things that the planning letter the planning review letter states is that it talks about how the business improvement or the Brown Road Innovation Zone, district encourages collaboration between adjacent property owners for the purpose of shared parking and access. I believe the spirit of that part of the ordinance is to encourage shared parking and access between properties that are currently in that biz zone. Finally, about the findings of the planner, almost all of those findings discuss the biz district, but they neglect to discuss or acknowledge the other properties in the adjacent zoning areas. So I really think that that whole thing should be paid attention to. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Steck. That's my wife. I also live at 3084 Judah Road. And I'd just like to reiterate the importance of verifying very simply that that it was notified. Like she had said, there should be an affidavit of publication, and there should be a list of who received the notifications, because if you make a decision based upon that, as you understand, not to lecture you, but you know it will be a legal decision. So as a board, please look into that first. So I would also like to say, I think it is actually, considering that there's a site plan that involves this property that is not zoned properly, that would not allow for that development to go on, I think it's a bit presumptive for the developer to have included this property prior to getting the property rezoned in a site plan that is before you on the same night. So there's no, and the rezoning will go to councils or to the Township Commission. So I think that is a little bit putting the cart before the horse. But I would like to stick on the importance of the master plan. The master plan, as you know, is designed to present to the public, to developers, so we have some certainty and understanding of how the development patterns will occur in our community. And the master plan clearly has a designation, I'm just right from your master plan, but it clearly has a line that was drawn there along that ridge line to designate that this is all going to remain single family. And this is great, everything that's occurring on Brown Road, the development, it's awesome. And clearly, this is working out greatly for our community as far as the investment, the interest in the investment that's going there. My point is that it's occurring there, let it occur there. Let it go within the master plan. Don't go against what this community had said in 2015 or 17 when you did your master plan. Don't go against your master plan. If this board does want to entertain this rezoning request, I think that you should go back and revisit your master plan before you rezone property that was master planned for single-family residential. A major concern of mine with this is not against the development. My concern is that if you approve this rezoning of this property, my concern is how are you going to then say no to a future rezoning to extend this zoning district further or along any of the adjacent parcels. You will basically be tying your hands to say no. So you really need to, as the Planning Commission, need to uphold your master plan or go back and revisit your master plan so that everybody knows we can all look for assurances as to what's occurring in our community and the future. So I also have, hopefully you were provided with the email letters that was signed. It's just a form letter. I gave it to the planning director as well as the city clerk. Hopefully you have received those letters. I do have a couple more that were given to me, so I'd like to, if I could give it to you. There's about 8 more letters on there in opposition to that, basically expressing the same concerns. So in summary, I would just like to say this is contrary to your master plan, to the community's master plan, what we all rely on to give us our assurances as to what's going to occur in our community. Please stick to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eugene McNab, 2981 Judah. I've been at enough meetings that I know that you're going to do whatever you want regardless what these people say. Now, I own Lot 10, and I have a problem back there because I don't know how you're going to make a grade. This is residential, both sides, and according to what 78 or 87 or something, it has to be a 4-to-1 grade on residential property. And Ordinance 99 says it has to be a 4-to-1 grade. But I know that you give them extra permission on Bernard's and cut it down. It's steep. But I don't even know how you're going to make that grade at the corner of my property on the southwest corner. I don't know how you're going to make it. You can look at it all you want, and I've looked at it, but I got your maps, and your maps didn't show me the contour lines on the maps that I got from this township, so I can't read that, so I don't know what your grade is. But I do know at one time, when they was mining, I was told that they made a mistake and got a little bit onto me as far as taking dirt. Now, I don't know, but that's what I was told. But I didn't have a concern over it at that time because the previous owners have always said that they intended on taking the pipeline out and lowering the ground, and now that's never happened. So now I got a problem up there if it is material that was taken off that corner of my property. I don't know just where the stake is, so I can't argue this. Or if it's erosion. But irregardless what it is, it should be taken care of. And is there going to be a buffer back there? Because my property, I don't want to walk along my property or have somebody up there riding a four-wheeler or something and run right off off the hill. Bernard's has a fence. But if the way they're cutting it down, if there's nothing kind of a buffer of some kind, then it's just going to be a steep grade right off my property. And I expect a decent grade off my property. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan Miller, 3066 Judah Road. I am a single family on Judah Road. I feel T-boned by this. This wasn't in the 20-year plan. It wasn't in the 10-year plan. Not a lot of us got notices. There's no other plan to go. And once we say okay, or you say okay to A, B, C, D, this deal falls through and another one comes up. We've now compromised our whole little neighborhood. And it's not a good plan. It wasn't the master plan. And I feel like we're going to get stuck with your bad decisions or something that can happen. You allow tenants in or apartment complexes and that Pulte goes under, or Pulte probably wouldn't go under, but if things happen, let's say it didn't perk properly or something, they became uninterested in it. That once we've rezoned it, we're cooked. Anything can come in there. We've lost what we were promised in the master plan, that would stay single-family homes. Lots of other things happen when you dump traffic on Judah Road. We've put up with it for 30 years from the gravel pit, and now to have an opening out onto Judah Road, that's not really fair to us. I just want you to take that into consideration when you consider about rezoning a residential area that we've all loved and groomed for many, many years, and we want it to stay that way. And I feel like we weren't thought about when you even entertain the idea of letting this guy try and change the different plan. And that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other member of the public like to make a comment?
Kevin Town, 3185 Judah. My concern is I don't know if it's completely, proper to bring this up, but with the gravel trains going back and forth up and down Judah Road, they're destroying the road, and no matter how much gravel is put down, they beat it up pretty good. So I would ask that you would motion to those that are using the gravel pit and the road for traffic, that they take care of the road and they upkeep it, because it's just there's poor drainage on Judah Road for one, and then when the semis come through there, they just wash out any of the soft spots. And we have lakes. Every 500 feet, we have lakes of puddles, and, we're constantly crossing lanes to avoid the puddles. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Lori Soma, 3071 Judah Road. I just wanted to go on record that I do oppose the rezoning change. It's my family's farm, so it's an emotional thing, but I don't see where making it multiple townhouses, 119 or 120 units, is going to benefit the single-family homes.
We also have, let's see, 6 form letters of opposition that were received and is part of the record, as well as those letters, I believe the other ones that were turned another one of the same.
Whole bunch more.
A bunch more. Well, I'll have you tally them up. We'll get a number. I'll invite the applicant back up if you'd like to make any comments based on what you've heard from the public.
Sure, I just had a couple of tactical notes. The Judah traffic concern, there's no connectivity to Judah. It's all Jordan and Brown.
And go ahead and address it. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
More?
Connectivity is through Jordan and Brown. And in terms of the grading, we're grading to standard. There's technical levels that we have to meet, so we're happy to look at that when the time comes. And then the only other item was just the I believe it was a barrier or some sort of fencing. We're at a full landscape plan. We're looking at that currently. So those are the only other follow-up items I had.
Okay, thank you. Any initial comments up here? Again, this commission will be deliberating on this matter here shortly this evening. Any initial comments, questions, or the public comment portion? Seeing none, I'll invite the public. Any other additional comments that you'd like to make? If you had spoke before, you may come up. There's something new that was sparked. Or if you haven't spoke yet, you may please come up, cite your name and address for the record.
How can we all get notified? This affects all of us. We would all like to be notified on Judith Road.
I'll do, within our planning department, if you notify them and or keep updated, I can let you know their protocol and so forth with regards to how you can best keep up to date. I'm not internal in the planning, department. I know they obviously, abide by all their regular postings. They do the best job to notify and when folks come in as soon as stuff's made public to get it out there. So I guess follow up with the planning department for the dates and, let them know your interest to be notified for things.
And how comfortable is the planning department talking to us individually about what's going on, explaining a little more what's up their sleeve? I feel really disconnected from this whole procedure.
With that, this is the public hearing portion for the rezoning, but in general, because during this process and so forth, so as the planning commission, we were brought forth, these plans once the applicant has submitted them, to the department. Sometimes there's pre-planning meetings, sometimes there's not. Obviously, anyone can come submit at any given time, and then it goes through, obviously, the process that's posted in the ordinance and which is online. I can, later, before we go into deliberation, have one of our consultants or internal give you guys some feedback as well. And we'll have more deliberation on this matter here shortly, but, this is, again, the public hearing portion for this rezoning.
Yeah, and then one more quick question. So how did it get from him submitting an application to it coming in front of the zone without us knowing about that? Would I ask the building department that? That was pretty...
Yeah, we have a standard process with regards to, how notices go out and letters and the signs and how things are posted in newspapers and so forth. And you can get copies of who was sent to and so forth and how that process works, yeah.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments, new comments, or if you haven't spoke before on the matter? And again, state your name and address for the record,
Yeah,
please.
I'm Jack Warren. I'm the one that owns the property that's in question. Actually, where it's in red, they have a pipeline has a 75-foot easement on each side, plus 75 foot of where the pipeline's at. So where the pipeline's at, coming down from 75 feet, is to the bottom of the hill, which is included in the acres that they're buying. So they're not actually buying 2 acres per se, because part of it is the township, is the pipeline easement. There's nothing can be built once they start their townhouses from that point back because there's not enough clearance there for anything. I don't see a problem with it. Going the other side, going to the west is where they're building the condos at right now along the pipeline. On the west side of the property is where Menard's at, it's along the pipeline. So what this here is in the middle of the two projects. It's already going on. So this piece here really has no effect with nobody on Judah Road. All it is the property from Judah Road comes up over the pipeline and stops at the property coming off of Brown Road. So all they're wanting to do is extend the property from Brown Road up to the pipeline, which, like I said, 75 feet of it is the pipeline easement anyway. So they're getting screwed actually buying it because they're buying 150 feet of property that they can't use because that's where the pipeline's at.
Thank you.
I'd just like to make one more comment. Looking at that land
Name and
right
address
there.
again, just so we
Oh,
have
I'm sorry.
comments.
Mark Steck, 3084 Judah Road. Looking at that land and how the development patterns are occurring, obviously, it's much more dense development patterns that can occur in the biz district, including, car dealerships, and as one of the other residents had said, that once you rezone it, now the notification said something about a contract zoning, so I'm a little bit unclear as to whether or not the community is looking to enter into a contract zone. So I'm not sure on that, if there's any terms of that contract zone. Look at your notification, it says contract zone. Or conditional zoning, conditional rezoning, so it's kind of one and the same. Looking at that where that pipeline is, since the biz district is right there, from a planning perspective, to keep the separation between the high-intensity development that's going to occur in the biz district, from a planning perspective, there would be nothing to, I don't think there would be anything to prevent that developer from utilizing that land right there, considering that they're getting, over 100 units in this, there's plenty of money to be made, that they can put that aside to create a buffer zone, a green buffer between those properties and that pipeline, since those will be kind of orphan parcels back there. From a planning perspective, that would be a great thing for you to do, to consider looking at that, to creating some sort of green buffer in that area to separate the higher intensity from the much lower intensity development. So I would like to say on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other last comments from the public? Again, anything new if you already spoke and or if you haven't spoke? Any last comments up here? Hello.
Hi, my name is Faith Sitterlin. I live at 2956 Judah Road. I've been there for 40 years, and I'd like you to keep our master plan as it is, not make changes to it. We have a lot of wildlife. It's beautiful out there, and I ask that you don't change it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, any other comments up here? All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing for PC 2019-15 Breckenridge Townhomes rezoning at 7:30, and we'll go ahead and go back into our regular meeting of the Orion Township Planning Commission where we left off. And we're under item number 7 now under new business, and item number A is PC 2019-15 Breckenridge Townhomes rezoning request to rezone part of parcel 0932-400-055 and parcel 0932-400-057 from R1 to the Biz District with use groups A, C, and D for that. With that, I'll invite the applicant back up to go ahead and if you have anything additional to add or fill us in now that we're going to have potential action on this actual item. Anything, obviously we just had the public hearing. Anything else you'd like to add, discuss at this time?
I think I understand the concerns and the arguments being made, and I don't really have anything to add outside of, what we already talked about.
Okay. With that, we'll go ahead and turn it over to our consultants to give us their overviews as to what they found out looking to the site. They'll bring it up here for deliberation. So I'll start over here to my left with Mr. Lewan. If you give us an overview from your planning lenses as to this rezoning request.
Thank you. So this is a rezoning of a part of several parcels. So what would result if this project is to go forward is that all the parcels that were notified, there would be a land division and land combination to split the parcels that are south of the pipeline easement, split them from the remainder of the parcels north of the easement. Those would not be changed. They'll remain single family. The property south of the easement is proposed to be rezoned biz, and those parts of those parcels that are connected to the northern parcels would then be combined and then added to the applicant's overall property that has the primary access to Brown Road. So this would require a rezoning, as we mentioned, and the depiction of the properties to be split and combined is shown on the second page of my review. The lots that are shown in purple, for those who have the color version of this, are the parts of the parcels that will remain residential. The red hashed parcel, as is shown on this drawing in front of us, is about a 2.75 acre parcel that the applicant's wishing to add to their existing parcel for their residential development. As was mentioned by one of the property owners, the little 2.75 acre parcel does not meet the master plan for biz. It's master plan single family residential. We do mention, though, on page 3 of our report that the proposed rezoning to biz, while it's inconsistent with the future land use map, does have a little bit of a unique location due to the barrier of the gas line that really inhibits that development south of the gas line. And this provides, the rezoning as proposed does provide an avenue to connect the parcel under the requested rezoning designation, aligning the potential development closer to the master plan's goals and objectives for the broader area, and that's primarily the area south of that pipeline area. So a lot going on with splits, combinations, adding property, but the main thing is the property north of the pipeline is not changing. The remaining single family, and as the applicant mentioned, there's no access proposed from the rezoning area or even the property that's currently zoned biz out to Judah Road. There's no access proposed. It's all going to be coming south and or west. When we look at the existing zoning and land use on page 3 of our report, we show the existing residential property that is requested for rezoning. In yellow, the proposed biz property that's south of there. And again, the applicant is simply proposing to add a relatively small 2.75 acre parcel to their parcel. So a couple things. The Planning Commission does have to consider the inconsistency with the master plan. When a project is inconsistent with the master plan, it's not an automatic denial or an automatic approval. The master plan is a guide, and there are sometimes circumstances that we can look at in those cases where we don't follow the master plan. There's a lot to this, but the master plan is, of course, a big part. If the Planning Commission believes that there are circumstances, in this case potentially the gas pipeline, that might be used to, there's a special circumstance that could be used to look past the master plan in this particular case, it would be important to note that circumstance in any motion that was made to push this, if this project is to move forward. To note that there is something special or different about this property. We also have to look at the existing land use and surrounding zonings. I mentioned that on page 3 and 4 of our report. And then we have to look at development potential. I think one of the residents also rightly noted that once the property is zoned biz, all of the uses that are permitted in the biz district would be permitted within this property. There was a mention that this might be a conditional rezoning. That's not how we reviewed the process, and I do not believe the applicant requested a conditional rezoning. I can't tell you what the notice indicated, but the application did not indicate this. This is just for the information of the folks here, and that might be watching at home. This is a straight rezoning from R1 to the Brown Road Innovation Zone District. it's always important to look at what the current zoning would allow. So you look at development potential and what could happen on this property. As I mentioned, there is some restriction due to the gas easement. Now, could you put a road across the gas easement? You might be able to put a road across the gas easement and develop that as single-family homes back there. We calculate, based on the R1 zoning, the applicant could get about 7 single-family homes on that property if that's what they were going to do. In looking at the site plan that they provided that we'll be reviewing shortly, they're proposing 11 multifamily units on the property. So they are proposing additional homes. So again, looking at development potential, there's additional units there, but it's not as though there would be no units there. The property is zoned single-family residential, and there could be a certain amount of development on that property should access be allowed across the easement. So 2 things the Planning Commission has to look at here is the potential use of the property and the existing use of the property. Natural features on site, they're due to the past use of the site for sand processing and mining. There are not significant natural features on the site. We'll get into the more significant tree protection and things like that when we get into the site plan stage of review. Similar issue with regard to traffic. And as mentioned, I know there's some concern about traffic going out to Judah Road. And traffic in this case is not, there's no access. There's simply no access proposed out to Judah Road for this proposal, for this project. With regard to essential facilities and services, when I talk about essential facilities and services, I think we're thinking about things like stormwater detention, water service, sanitary service. A rezoning, we don't normally get into those kinds of things. Those are, we're just looking at land use. If this project moves forward tonight, we'll be looking at the site plan section of this, and we will be talking more about those kinds of essential facilities and services. So the Planning Commission is supposed to make a finding based on evidence presented with respect to the objectives of the master plan, existing uses of property within the general area of the property in question, the zoning classification of the property within the general area of the property in question, the suitability of the property in question to the uses permitted under the existing classification, and the trend of development in the general area of the property in question, including any changes which have taken place in the zoning classification. And as was mentioned by the applicant, there's quite a bit going on adjacent to this property to the east and west, just within the last 2 years. So our summary findings in this case, and I'll just read them out for the record. The proposed rezoning to the Biz District is inconsistent with the future land use map. However, the unique location of the parcel and natural barrier that inhibits its development within its current district provides an avenue to connect the parcels under the requested rezoning designation, aligning the potential development close to the master plan's goals and objectives for the broader area. 2, consideration of consistency with the adjacent land uses and zoning districts, something the Planning Commission should discuss, and we could discuss that in further detail if you wish. The 3rd item, that the subject parcels are adjacent to an area identified for collaboration and potential lot combinations. That is mentioned in the Biz District, talking about consolidations of properties. Number 4, increased development potential of the property in consideration of all biz permitted uses. Number 5, natural resources will be further analyzed at the time of site plan review. Traffic impact will be reviewed at the time of final site plan review, as well as essential facilities and services. And if there's any additional questions I can answer, I'd be happy to try to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We also received a letter from our Department of Public Works Director saying that they have no objections to their proposed action development plan for this project. With that, I'll bring it up here for my fellow commissioners' comments, questions, deliberation. Mr. Steimel.
I guess some of this is, it's a rezoning, but part of this is, part of the application is splitting the lots, and I guess some of my question might be like, are we actually looking at the properties as they exist that we're going to rezone the southern piece? And then then I don't know. I would I would like to hear from Tammy a little bit about how we did the notification. I just want to make sure we followed all the right procedures.
Okay, so as with any application that comes in, if it involves any alteration to the property lines, then I always suggest that part of the motion, if your motion is to recommend approval to the Township Board, it's contingent upon the land division or boundary, actually this would be a boundary adjustment occurring and combining all the parcels involved, although it's two parcels and it's a boundary adjustment to move the boundary south, to the north, so it becomes part of the southern property. So it could be one of your conditions. Understandably, that doing a boundary adjustment without knowing whether the township's going to accept the rezone, they don't want to take those steps. So it could be one of the conditions. I don't see any problem with the boundary adjustment if and when they apply for it. As far as the notices, I just looked at the notices. I don't see the word condition anywhere. I'm not really sure. Maybe they looked at my suggested motion and I said, I always give you the different motions, whichever one you choose, and I might have said conditioned on the land alteration, like I just said, so maybe there was confusion there. Without running the program to look at the 300-foot notice, I don't know for sure, but I did look at the map, looked at property gateway, realizing that Judah Road, you have the width of Judah Road coming off of the property. The very first property that's across the street from it is 100 feet wide, so you hit 300 feet really fast. And I counted, and I forget, 9 or 10 notices that went to properties on Judah. So I would have to double check it with the program upstairs, but it appears that the notice was done correctly.
Okay.
Sure.
my
Someone
question.
to follow up? Yep.
So you looked at this thing like you see, it's like a big finger, and I'm thinking that most northern one was used to figure out there's a 300-foot line from there, which would encompass a fair number of.
We have to do it by parcel number, so it would have been run on each parcel number. So the finger piece would be going the most,
Right.
and it would be 300 foot perimeter from that outer. But realizing the properties on the other side, on the north side of Judah, are long also. So once you hit that first property, if that property goes 300 feet deep, nobody beyond that's going to get it. And if you're on the finger and the first property you hit is 100 feet, then you're only going to hit 3 properties going west. So it really doesn't add up to a number of properties very quickly.
Okay. So as far as we know, we're good.
We just all want to be notified.
Well, like I said, that's how they use that 300-foot, they go from the boundaries. I know you use the GIS, that's
Yep.
typically how we do it.
Yep.
I wanted to make sure that we did go with the whole property
Yes.
and not just the southern piece that's hatched,
Correct,
you know.
the whole property.
That's
Because we hit
my
some on
concern.
Judah.
So,
It's a good plan. We all just want to know what's going on.
so anyway, so that's always okay, so we did notice like we're supposed to for that 300-foot.
Correct. I mean, I would have to run it to get exact, but looking at it based on the number of properties that were noticed on Judah, it does appear to me that it was the 300 foot.
And-
I'm happy to show you what I was provided from your department.
So anyway, and it also kind of sounds like the sign worked, like we always expected, because there's always people not being noticed, but if they saw the sign, then that would help, because they didn't officially get noticed because they weren't in the 300 feet, but
Correct.
they live around there, hopefully then they realize to call you on.
And we had a number of calls that it was confusing to describe over the phone, and that's when we created this hash mark map so that we could email it to anybody that called so they'd understand the area that was being discussed.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Some of my comments, I mean, looking at this particular parcel, obviously with the gas line, you got looking at the natural features around there and the easement that comes along with that, as well as the topography, the development to the east, the west, obviously the south along the Biz District. being part of the original master, or the last rendition of the master plan, the one before that, and now coming up on the 5-year review, we always looked at the parcel as being the line and didn't really look at the gas line as being a feature, as we normally with master plans kind of go by the parcel lines, and given how much depth was there, but we also always thought maybe a ring road or connecting in so we don't have landlocked parcels and so forth, as well as given the multi-product that's going on to the west. We also have to consider that this is rezoning, that portion, whatever goes in those use groups, obviously could come forth. We do have a little insight, obviously, to what our next item is and what they're probably going to put there, and in just a minute, our next item, so that is helpful. So given the factors now that a lot of the unknown variables are there now with to the east, the Menards development, what's happening to the west, how these parcels will essentially be landlocked if something else is to go forth, I think there's some reason to look at deviating from what the original master plan we put 4 years ago, considering we're just looking at that parcel line and now how it's developed. I don't have much concern that this is going to spark or have a case for above and north of the gas line to now have the biz district expand and go into this area by any means. So with those reasons, I'm more comfortable to look at, bringing this in line with what the development pattern is, the intent of the biz for this property. Yes, Mr. Gross.
Can someone provide me with the information as to where is the proposed zoning line lie? Is it in the middle of the gas line, or is it at the edge of the easement? Because if it's at the edge of the easement, there's an additional 75 feet of setback and buffer.
I believe it's
sure.
Yeah, the southern edge of the easement.
So it's the southern edge of the, it does not include the easement from the gas line.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's an additional.
Yeah, setback buffers from that, yeah.
Yeah, typically, when we see easements being placed and utilities being placed in, they try to follow the property lines, the lot lines. And in this case, it kind of divides a parcel, and it leaves part of the property almost undevelopable from any standpoint. And I think it's logical to attach it to the property to the south so that it can be developed with the property having access only to Brown Road or to Jordan Road, and not access onto Judah Road, because the zoning would not permit access through the main or the finger property, the parent property, up to Judah. And it's being used, I think, primarily for density purposes and not for major development. So, Mr. Chairman, you're correct. The master plan is a guide. It is not supposed to reflect property lines necessarily as a zoning map would do. So it does provide us for some guidance and some direction. So I'm tending to think that there is a relationship of the southern piece to the Brown Road property as opposed to the Judah Road property.
Further comments, thoughts, discussion? Not entertain a motion, or yes, Mr. Simon?
This is one I wish we did have a little more detailed look at, so I knew for sure what I was approving.
On where the line's going to be?
Yeah, where the line's going to be and how that relates and stuff like that. Because I think, it's been a few years, maybe 2 or 3, since I've been out that area. But I seem to remember right there, it is pretty much a hill.
It is. It's about 50 feet, yeah.
Goes down, and like I said, where this really is. Even now, the way it is, just looking at a map, it is not inconceivable that someone could try to put an access drive to the north. Now, granted, because of the topography, it doesn't make much sense. But you could do that. So even saying, oh, we do this, and they're not gonna use that rest of that property, even put a drive in there, well, we can't guarantee that. We can't guarantee it now, if they own the property.
Well, we can't for non-residential property, for non-residential access.
To some, yeah, So anyway, that's, either way, I mean, like I said, even now, they could potentially, if they'd bought a lot to the north, could have tried to continue through. Now, we say, well, right here, though, with that topography, it's almost impossible to connect the southern portion with the northern. Well, I guess never say impossible, but, they could do that now, potentially even now, connect them. So, yeah, it's a little disconcerting, and yet I do understand the uniqueness of that, where you can, move that line kind of along with the gas line and the topography change that doesn't seem like on the surface it should be that bad. It's always hard when you're looking at something like this, and I've never actually seen that area with topo lines and stuff like that. And like I said, I probably should have walked out there again, just to and it wasn't clear to me that we were proposing that even, that it was going to be split off. I'm not sure that makes a big difference, but I really don't like splitting properties with zoning.
Split zoning.
Wherever we have that, it's a problem. Everywhere we have that, it's a problem. So, it sounds like the concept is to move the boundaries and combine them, so they'd be separate. That still doesn't necessarily guarantee anything, but I will say from experience, we tend to not want to split properties like this, So like the southern third would be one zoning and the northern 2/3 would be another. That's not something we really want. There are places where it is like that, and like I say, it has been problematic, always. So we try to avoid that like the plague, to be honest with you. If we're doing it, consciously doing it, that's why, like I said, when we do up master plans and zoning maps, we try to follow as best we can existing property lines to make it easier to go with, so.
Can I ask the applicant a question? Do you happen to have sheet 2 that you could pull up on the computer?
Is that the parcel split drawings, or maybe that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at, I was just gonna bring that one up.
Partial split itself.
Yeah, you have a spark.
And it shows a topo. I think it addresses
Yeah, I'll
some of
pull
the
it
things
up.
that John raising. Here's the hill he's talking about. That's pretty steep.
Yeah, see, I looked at this one. And yeah, if I was a surveyor and stuff like that. My problem is, like I said, I look at something like this, it's kind of like some of the others, and if I don't have enough recognizable landmarks shown, I don't really know where that is. Unless I go out there and I can see the stakes and stuff like that, but that was one thing here.
I don't believe I have a digital copy of the topography, but
That's great. It's good description there and shows it.
But it actually sounds like, and that's when I was even looking at it, a little easier to see on some of the site plan things, that topo lines didn't change that much in height. Well, then that kind of gets back to what you were asking. It sounds like the line is actually down towards the base of the hill versus right where the gas line is, and I was kind of looking for that, going, where is that? And, and even then, that's what they're showing here. I don't know if that's the existing topos or not, when they showed that. But there was only like 2 to 4 foot, drop in that area. That's what it looked like. For what was part from their boundary, from their property line, what they're calling now, onto their site plan, there was not much of a elevation change, so. It's details, I know, but it's like trying to associate yourself with what you know is out there and what's here, and what am I really agreeing to?
No, I understand.
And as far as our way we have to look at things and stuff like that, we have been told that gas line is not going away anytime soon. So any talk of it maybe going away and then them lowering it, that's, nope.
Happening.
It's in their long-range plan to have that gas line in there. And as you know, they just dumped some more money in there to fix some stuff, and they are definitely not planning. And then, of course, with Baldwin Road, they wouldn't move on that. They said it's going to be there, and we plan on leaving there. We're not going to abandon that one. So it's for, this isn't just 5 years, this is for the foreseeable future. As far as we're concerned, it's there, so. And so then, there is the one property, then it cuts into his property to the east, right? A little bit. So it'd be that little section still at the base of the hill, though, where the property line comes down. That's the first residential property to the east, to the northeast, is what I'm saying.
There's just one thing maybe to
Sure, Mr.
to add.
Landis.
As many of you probably know, that this portion of the property that they're looking to rezone, its current use is part of an active Ordinance 99 permit for Pontiac. Sorry, can you hear me? No. I was just explaining that the portion of the property that they're looking to rezone is currently an active Ordinance 99 permit for Pontiac crush concrete. So it's in effect being utilized as part of the property that fronts Brown Road in its current use. The crushing equipment and whatnot actually overlaps into this property currently.
So that's reflected on this aerial photograph outlined in blue? That area to the
Yes.
north is currently being used,
As part of the Ordinance
even though it's
99.
owned residential?
Actually,
Currently.
isn't that whole property to the north of 99?
Well, I'd have to look to see
so.
where the
It's not a
ordinance
separate one.
cuts off, but
Yeah.
it is part of Dan's to the north, is part of the
Yeah.
Pontiac Crush Ordinance 99 permit.
Thank you. And you can kind of see on this aerial there, obviously, what the activity on the site there is, on the topography. And also, given that it is a rezoning combination split, meaning they're combining and uniformly lining up the rezoning with where the parcel lines are, as Mr. Simon mentioned, we do tend to prefer that, as it does make things a little simpler, easier, and kind of brings things all under one parcel versus having split zoning on different parcels. Any other further thoughts, comments, or?
But that lot split and recombo and all that stuff, that's not really part of this. They'll probably do that, but in essence, we are still rezoning just a piece. So that's just the way it goes. It's what comes first, the chicken or the egg, and,
And we can make that as, part of the motion, too, to make it contingent upon.
Say that part again?
Can we make it contingent upon getting, about making sure that it's approved? I thought that's what Tammy was kind of referring to.
I think that would be a better condition to the site plan.
Oh, yeah, we're still on the, rezoning.
Because and not to get into the site plan, but unless they combine those parcels, there would be a bunch of setback issues.
Anyways, yeah, so it's a good
So
point.
if
Yeah,
they
it's going to
don't-
catch it anyways.
They don't
yeah.
combine those parcels,
It's not going to work anyways.
there's going to be a bunch, they need a bunch of variances, which wouldn't make a lot of sense.
Further thoughts or comments, or entertain a motion? Maybe Mr. Gross is working on one?
Mr. Chair, I would recommend that the Planning Commission forwards a recommendation of the Township Board to approve PC 2019-15 Breckenridge townhomes to rezone a southerly 200-foot parcel of 0932-400-55 and the southerly 150 feet of 0932-400-57 from single-family residential R1 to Brown Road Innovation Zone Biz Use Groups A, C, and D. The area of rezone is as shown on sheets 3 and 7 of the survey from Duffin and Ulmer, date stamped and received 3/21 of 19. This recommendation for approval is based on the following findings of fact, that even though the proposed rezoning to biz is inconsistent with the future land use plan, which is a guide, the unique location of the parcel and the natural barrier that inhibits its development within its current zoning district provides an avenue to connect the parcels under the requested rezoning designation, aligning the potential development closer to the master plan goals and objectives for the broader area. Number 2, the proposed rezoning is consistent with adjacent land uses and zoning districts to the south and west and is separated from its parent parcel by the utility easement which traverses the southern portion of the property. Number 3, this recommended rezoning is based upon representation that the properties will be consolidated and combined into a single development parcel and a single legal description.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there support on the motion?
I'll support it for now.
Motion support. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none. Any public comment on the motion?
Eugene McNab, 2981 Judah. I was thinking here, is there any way that the lots that you're shortening up can put that they have the same advantage as a person that owns 5 acres in the future? Because when you go to the zoning board, the 5 acres might make a difference in what you can put on that property when all the neighbors, and even the ones that are landlocked, they got 5 acres, so they don't have to go to the zoning board because they own 5. You're shortening up these couple lots, which don't affect me, and you're shortening them up, and they have to go to the zoning board because they don't have the 5 acres.
Interesting thought. I don't know if we can really restrict or give future consideration for a size of a parcel.
Well, the fact is, it would be the same because that property in back will never be used. Everybody says it won't be used because there'll be a grade there, there'll be the pipeline there, and they should have the same benefit. It's not affecting me. So whatever you make don't make any difference. I got control of my own property. But it's what I'm saying is the fact that those people will have actually more property than some of them that are landlocked, but they will have to go in front of the zoning board because they don't have the 5 acres, where the other ones have got less than 5 acres they're using, and they don't have to go.
I see your thoughts there, but, they're getting it on the one side for the overall side of it, and then, given that we have a site plan in front of us too, we kind of know it's going to be there on the size, but, and also I'm not sure we can really get future size benefit to something that's after it's been changed, but under consideration, the master plan review's coming up as well, and...
But when I'm in front of the planning commission, then you're the ones that can change it, and this eliminates a person from having to go $250 to get something done, which I'm sure the zoning board would give it to him.
The parcel's on the north?
Huh?
You're saying, so the parcel's on the north,
No, on Judah Road, the people on the south, or they're going south on their property.
That goes up to, so the 2 parcels that are part of this rezoning request that go from the
It's more
gas
than
line
2,
through
isn't it?
Judah, right?
what, 11, 12, 13, 14. It's
Yeah.
four parcels.
Yeah. So it's a good thought, but I just don't know logistically as well as I'm comfortable with giving an additional benefit, because things are changing now and benefits are being given, things are, discussed as this specifically. Certainly there's no one stopping anyone from coming forth and asking for a variance because it's really theoretical that if someone comes with 5 acres or under for something in the future, it's just theoretical.
You're giving them a cutback on the property to cut in to do the housing,
Yeah, I would
and
just.
I don't know why you can't, I'm just speaking, I'm not saying it's
appreciate
not
the
bothering
insight,
me. I'm just trying to clear up something in the future.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. I'll defer to our
And
planner. Maybe he's got some further thoughts. Yeah.
And I appreciate the thought, and I think what you're trying to do is prevent a nonconformity or someone having to, like you said, having to get a variance. I don't think any of the lots that are being split off will become nonconforming. I think the minimum lot size in the R1 district is 14,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's pretty, yeah.
So they shouldn't be butting up to any variance situation by losing the rear part of their lots. And even if they were, that's not something the Planning Commission can do.
Okay.
So that would require an amendment to the zone, actually text amendment or to the zoning ordinance if we were to allow some kind of special dispensation to these folks. But I don't know that there will be a problem. And we're not causing a nonconformity by this split.
They're pretty deep too. Again, with the setbacks and everything else. I mean, I appreciate the thought process.
It
but-
will not affect any of their neighbors, because the neighbors to the south, there's the pipeline's way up there, so there's no, I can't see why, when you take property away from that piece of property, why whoever owns it in the future should have to suffer because you took it away now, where now you can amend that, so in the future, they don't have to go to the zoning board. I'm sure the zoning board would give them the same consideration that the neighbors have got. I'm almost positive of that. Because I've been to enough zoning boards, I know pretty much how they operate, which I'm not in favor of, but I know how they
Well,
operate.
Okay. Thank you for your thoughts and consideration of that. Sure.
Again, Mark Steck, 3084 Judah Road, and I thank you for the opportunity to say a couple more words. I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm just a little concerned, with all due respect to the staff, I'm sure they do a fine job. I am a little bit concerned with the following the legal procedures for this with the notification. The staff member came up and said they believe that they had this. These are easy things for the notification. There should easily be a document produced that says, here is who we notified, here is the boundaries, very simple thing. I'm also concerned about, now this could be an error about the legal obligation to put it in the newspaper. Now, if you went into a different newspaper, I don't know, but it seems like all the legal notifications go through the Lake Orion Review, and if you go on their website, and again, they could have dropped this, but this is not included on there. So it could have been in the newspaper. A very easy thing to check. There should be an affidavit of publication with a date. Your staff should be able to provide me with the date that this went into the newspaper, and I should very easily be able to go verify that. So I'm just a little concerned that you are disregarding that, and that your planning consultant isn't concerned about that, that you're following all the legal processes, because if you run afoul of that, you are exposing the community. So I'm just very concerned about that, moving forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
And this comes up occasionally where we don't, it's not uncommon for residents to say they weren't notified.
I'm not saying I wasn't notified. I wasn't deserved to get a notification. I was 633 feet from the zoning property, but I do understand the rules and regulations through the Zoning Enabling Act that you must follow, that you must provide. And can anybody on the commission show me that with certainty that this was properly notified? Can you produce right now the legal address? That would be great. That would be great.
If so, this is not uncommon for residents to say they either weren't notified or don't think they're notified, and so in these cases we don't just stop the hearing. We go on. You make your motion, and what will happen is the staff will check it. If there was a problem, we'll rehear it.
We'll be back.
That's what will happen.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah. So we're going to go forward with the plan in the motion, and this, like I said, this is not uncommon for people to have questions. We check it. we find out if there was a mistake, we'll rehear it.
Okay, so you will operate, you'll go back, and then if we find out that it was not properly, which it very well could be, very well could be. I'm not trying to slander anybody or say anybody did wrong. I'm actually looking out for to make sure that you guys are making a legally defensible decision. Thank you.
And in addition,
Mr. Gross?
this is just a recommendation. There will be a second public hearing before the Township Board at a future date.
You know, obviously, this would be brought up. I would be my concern if I was sitting in your shoes to have made a determination that's going to go on to your to the township supervisor, to the board, that you did do something, you potentially made a decision when you were known that there could be possibly not properly notified. So,
Thank you. Any other further public comment on the motion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Gross.
Yes.
Walker.
No.
Harris.
Yes.
Stamel.
Yes.
Janaskis.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. We'll go on and stay tuned because next item, 7B under our new business is PC 2019-18 Breckenridge Townhome Site Plan, and this is for site located at 313 Brown Road, parcel 0932-400-023, also addressed 4905 Estes, parcel 0932-400-059, and some unaddressed parcels 0932, let's see, 400-024, another unaddressed parcel 0932-400-580, parcel 0932-400-021, parcel 0932-400-022, and portions of unaddressed land, which are parts of the two parcels, 0932-400-055 and parcel 0932-400-057. If the applicant would please step forward and give us an overview of your site plan request.
Thank you, Chris Plum, Pulte Group. I'm Matt Bush with Atwell, our civil engineer. If we have any engineering questions as we dive in to a very brief presentation. As we noted, Breckenridge Townhomes is the marketing name that we are proposing. We'll talk through the parcels, which you already looked at briefly, the site plan, potential community benefits that we've agreed to do along Baldwin Road to enhance that corridor, and then jumping into some review commentary regarding setbacks, guest parking, Jordan Road, and then future traffic study, elevation, landscaping, and the like. I also have renderings of elevations, and then I'm sure we'll have a discussion thereafter. We briefly touched on this. It's a combination and merger of 8 different parcels, 19 acres in total. Currently, it's an active concrete crushing operation, a majority of the parcel. There's a single-family residence as well as 313 Brown Road that fronts Brown Road. Zooming out to a general area plan, you can see that the site plan is shown coming in north off of Brown Road with a loop road, exiting with a secondary access point for Jordan Road. We'll talk about that in a little bit. The one other element I was going to mention is the retention pond is on the east side of the property. So that's where the stormwater management will be in compliance with all of the township ordinance. That's where the proposed pond will be located. You can see this as well. It consists of 112 for-sale townhomes. We'll talk about what the product is and how it fits in a little bit. But this is a 2-story conventional townhome. It's not a 3-story walk-up. It's 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 2-car attached garage, starting at 1,850 square feet. So it's a larger townhome unit, and it feels very much like a single-family home. We're going to have an offering that includes basements and slabs dictated on the topography of the site. We talked a lot about the boundaries given the existing use, but as there's flow across the site, there's going to be slab units for those that want it, don't want to have the extra floor to maintain, and also basements for those that would want to have additional storage beneath their units. We expect this product and this community to draw from a wide variety of buyers. Young families with or without kids primarily, but also empty nesters that are looking to retire in place in Orion Township It's a low maintenance, I should say no maintenance community where snow, lawn, trash, everything's included, including the maintenance of the exterior of the buildings through the HOA. So it's really a all-inclusive community. One other element that we'll be doing while we develop the site is improving the corner of Baldwin Road and Jordan Road. There's a lot of activity in that corridor with the road improvements. There's a pocket park plan for the Baldwin improvement corridor. We're going to contribute to that with working kind and enhancing it for both pedestrians and bike enthusiasts. So this is very much a conceptual drawing. It's open for township feedback, suggestions. I mentioned bike enthusiasts, there's bike racks, maybe a pump station. We're just kicking around some ideas. It's a relatively smaller space with the proposed retail on that corridor as well, but it's going to enhance that Jordan Road intersection. One noted item in the review letter dated April 23rd was our setbacks were not in compliance. We were able to quickly fix that. Now, it hasn't been reviewed, but it was shifting the layout of the site to make sure we complied. You can see the top is the before and the bottom is the after. 63-foot rear to rear, now it's 70 feet. So we were able to stretch that out rather quickly. We don't anticipate that to be an issue going forward. Now, guest parking was another item that was discussed as part of the review. We have a total of 4 units per space, 2 in the garage, 2 in the driveway, and it won't impact circulation. But there's an ordinance in the biz zoning where guest parking should be provided, and it's calculated at 38 units. We're evaluating if we could do guest parking on one side of the street where there's not units on both sides. So you see the highlighted section on the west and south edge. That would be something we're looking at. We're open to feedback as we continue the discussion, but that was what we thought would be a nice compromise to make sure there was additional guest parking for the Super Bowl party, those bigger events, and it wouldn't impact circulation. Now, Jordan Road is a big piece of this development because it's an additional entry point, both for residents as well as for emergency vehicles, which is critical. It does provide easier northbound access, and then there's a lot of new stuff that's going on the Baldwin corridor. There's a shopping center there that I frequented. So as part of this development, there's a section that's unpaved, and we're going to propose paving that as part of the development to complete the road, connect the entire corridor. Baldwin Square did a majority of the work, but we want to finish it off as part of this development. We do owe cross-sections and plans. It wasn't submitted, but I think that's something we can work on as soon as possible. The other miscellaneous items that were called out, traffic study. I believe in the engineering review letter, it was noted that there's a larger scale traffic study plan, so we're very much open to contributing to that in lieu of a development-specific traffic plan. And then one of the other items that was mentioned was tree survey, landmark trees. We had that in process over the last month. We completed it. There's 269 trees total. I'm not an arborist, so I don't know what the highest quality are, but we're just going to go through the ordinance, comb through it, replace it. We have a lot of landscape plantings planned, so we'll just make sure we're in compliance as we work through the plan. One of the other call-outs, which we agree with, is berming the property on the southern edge with the commercial use. So that would be something we can accommodate with the grading on that side of the property. It's not as severe as the north side. The renderings here are included. I mentioned 2-car front entry garages, important in the Michigan weather. Kind of a traditional look, brick and stone featured on the front. And then we have, unfortunately, I have kind of colored. It doesn't really shows up pretty good on the screen with the brick and stone accent on the side and rear. And then we also have extension options on several of these units where you can expand a sunroom with a master suite. Really, it's dependent on what the buyer wants and where they want to place their budget for their home. Floor plans are life-tested design, so one of the benefits of Pulte Group is we're a national company. We have a lot of different plans that move through the system. Really, the best of the best is what we offer. So I mentioned 1,800 square feet in a base plan. That's 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, 2-car garage. There's different layouts in terms of the bathroom configurations themselves, front, back, fireplace options and the like. Really, there's a lot of things that a buyer can say, hey, I want that, or I don't want that. They can customize as they work through, or as we build for them, or as we build buildings on the fly. That's all I had for prepared remarks. So I just wanted to leave the site plan up if we wanted to talk more detailed questions or have a discussion.
Thank you. With that, I'll turn over to our consultants. I'll start with Mr. Lewan, if you'll give us an overview of your findings on this site plan review.
Yeah, the applicant addressed a number of our concerns. Overall, this site, it's a pretty clean site plan from a planning perspective with regard to setbacks and density and those sorts of things we normally look at. I'll just kind of hit the high points. I trust you've all had a chance to read the review. If you have any questions, I can try to answer those questions. We did note that landmark trees, regardless of location, have to be replaced, and it sounds like the applicant is underway with that review. We deferred to the Township Fire Department and Mr. Landis's office to look at some dimensions and geometry as it has to do with emergency access. We do note that the site has 2 access points, which is good, Jordan Road and Brown Road. So that's positive for the site. We note that the Planning Commission may ask for a traffic study. As was mentioned, I think Mr. Landis might have more input on this, but apparently there's a larger scale traffic study that the township is looking into. And it's my understanding that instead of, as the applicant said, a site-specific traffic plan, they might be looking to be part of the overall traffic. And maybe Mr. Landis can talk about that in a few moments here. We would like to see some consideration or get the applicant's input on consideration for pedestrian access out to Jordan Road. There is a new development, I think it's Baldwin Square, I believe is the name of it. And there will be some improvements on Jordan, and we just want to make sure that this site can connect in a pedestrian manner out to Baldwin Road. I mean, the whole part of the idea of the BIZ and the Gingiville Overlay District is to provide pedestrian access. We want to promote that between developments, and that would also go along with the whole BIZ zoning, is these connections and between properties and pedestrian access across properties. So that would be certainly a benefit to this project, and we'd like some consideration made with that point. The applicant indicated they are in the process of addressing guest parking. There is a guest parking space. I think the applicant noted 38 parking spaces based on the number of units. So we would like to see that accommodated in some manner. We understand 2 in the parking lot, or 2 in the garage, 2 on the driveway, but if their garage looks anything like my garage, you're not going to get 2 cars in there, and if people are visiting, then that can become a little problematic. There is a requirement so there's a landscape requirement along all the property lines that are not residential. So this is in the BIZ zone. The BIZ does allow multifamily. The applicant, by the way, if you're curious, they're proposing densities that are close to the RM1 density. There's 2 multifamily districts in the Orion zoning ordinance, and they're proposing it at the lower of the 2 densities. But because they are proposing this as residential, there's certain kinds of landscaping that has to occur wherever you're butting up against non-residential property. And as you see from our report, the applicant has provided the correct number of trees and shrubs along the adjacent property lines. But one thing they do not show is berming along those property lines. So it's a combination of a 5-foot berm plus, or a 3-foot berm plus the plantings. And of course, there's always a provision that the Planning Commission can waive the berm requirement as long as the landscape part will do the same thing. However, as mentioned by the applicant, it appears that they are interested in pursuing a berm, at least in the southern property, and perhaps on others. But that's something that the Planning Commission could allow a waiver of if you so chose to do that. But we pointed out because it is a requirement without that waiver. We talk about, whenever we look at a site plan, we try to talk about dumpsters. Well, there will be no dumpsters in this case, but because these are residential units, but we would like some indication of how trash, what they're doing with trash on site. And along Brown Road, there is a requirement for a certain type of ornamental fixture, kind of similar to, actually not similar, exactly like the lights you see on Baldwin Road. And it's one per, I think, 150 feet or something like that. So I think the applicant might be required to put 2 of those in there, but that's something that's going to have to be added to the plan. That's really the Brown Road. We added that language about a year ago or so to kind of mimic some of the site design standards that you find on Baldwin Road. And so those will have to be added to the site plan as well. And we would like the applicant to provide some additional information on the structure, where the sign is going to go, to make sure that that structure fits with the Brown Road, the new Brown Road design standards. Normally, we don't really weigh in on signs, but because this is more than just a sign, it's basically a wall, and we do have certain standards we're trying to promote along Brown Road. We'd like that wall to match color and structure to a certain degree, so we do need a little bit more information on that to make sure it matches the Brown Road information. So those are the big picture items. I mean, the applicant mentioned about the setback between buildings. We raised that in our first review, and I believe I actually did review it, and I changed the comments, and those, I think, are the ones you guys have in your packet, because we did not raise that as an issue because we saw the setback had been changed. So we have 10 items. Most of these items are clarifications. I don't think any of them, unless the engineer or fire chief came back with changes to the road dimensions for fire access vehicles. Aside from that, none of our comments would change the layout of the site or the number of units or those items. But all of these items should be addressed to the satisfaction of the Planning Commission prior to this project moving forward.
Excellent. Thank you. With that, we'll turn it over to Mr. Landis for overview of your findings on the site plan.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the applicant's already given a nice overview of the project, and I'll just go ahead and jump right to our concluding comments and maybe elaborate on those a little bit. And if you do have any questions on the rest of my review letter, I'd be happy to answer those. We did have 7 comments in conclusion that we would like the applicant to address. The first was that the existing and proposed grades on site need to be modified to meet the maximum grade of 1-on-3 per the Township ordinance. As mentioned earlier, this is and has been for decades an active Ordinance 99 site. So there's many steep slopes that have resulted over the years as a result of that operation that need to now be restored to a maximum 1-on-3, as we have done on other Ordinance 99 sites. There's a lot of grades that the applicants proposed, mostly to the north and on the east side, that are in excess of 1-on-3, as well as they need to address regrading some of the existing slopes. Maybe it certainly appears to be feasible, probably with the introduction of some retaining walls. So, number 2, we'd ask that the applicant submit a geotechnical report with soil borings in the vicinity of the retention pond to support the viability of effective infiltration. As the applicant mentioned, they are proposing a retention pond towards the east side of the site. And before we'd want to approve a retention pond, we want to make sure that the soils in that area are going to promote infiltration, so we don't have that basin just silting up and in a constant condition of overflow. So, third, we asked that a traffic study be provided. I think the applicants already indicated they'd be willing to contribute towards the township's overall traffic study for the Brown Road corridor, which is great. We'll have to explore that more. Number 4, we asked that the applicant revise the plans to include the paving of the existing section of Jordan Road, which is about 500 feet. There's currently gravel and unmaintained. By the applicant's presentation, it appears that they've already agreed to take that on. So. Number 5, asking that they revise the detention calculations and the storm sewer pump station overflow outlet to adhere to the Holland Drainage District, which has a more restrictive rate of 0.0776 CFS per acre. But it certainly appears that there's room on the site to accommodate that. And number 6, we asked that the site plan include preliminary details for the proposed pump station overflow. And number 7, there were some minor paving areas where the slope got less than the required minimum 1%. I think that's easily modified. So.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We also have a couple other letters that I believe that applicant you may also have already been furnished with. One from our fire marshal saying that he just development requires a second separate means of access, which I believe is already addressed through Jordan Road. Let's see. Also, Jeff Stout, our Director of Public Services, I believe, had a letter in here. That's where it is. You're going to be required to extend the water and sanitary services, obviously, to the new site and the existing tie-in points at the cost, obviously, for ordinance standards. The Oakland County Road Commission has a couple different points here as it relates to some of the pedestrian crossings, making sure they make the ADA compliance requirements, guidelines, that is, as well as names of the private roads and their traditional, obviously, requirements per their standards on their drainage and widths and so forth. Have you been furnished with the Road Commission's letter as well?
Yes.
Okay. All right, with that, I'll bring it up here to my fellow commissioners for some comments, questions for the applicant. Deliberation. Sure, Mr. Simon.
Couple things. Isn't the photometric grid a requirement of site plan?
Yes.
So, and it hasn't been submitted. At least I didn't see one. At least not in my package.
It is required, yes. If I did not mention that, I overlooked that.
Even on residential?
Yes. Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking, I didn't know if
Oh, yeah.
these particular ones. Well, single-family home or something, you need a photometric plan?
This definitely isn't a single.
Well, I'm just
mentioned,
throwing in general, seeing in residential,
but
if it's always
I'm
required.
pretty sure on this site plan, it photometric grid was required.
Yeah, yes, I did. It's in my review, but I did not mention it.
Okay.
Yes. Yep.
And they're not in compliance with the woodlands ordinance because they haven't provided a
Correct.
tree study, so there's
Correct.
still, we don't have that,
Correct.
okay? What was the other thing? I guess I do have a question for you.
Sure.
And just my understanding, it's engineering. This is an old pit.
Yes.
Is there any concern? Was there supposed to be any, like normally you'd be doing soil compaction when you're filling in a pit? Is it done right, so that we don't have problems with these homes later on? I know it'd be more of a problem if you were putting some kind of industrial on top, something heavy, but is there a requirement that we're supposed to look at that this,
I believe then that there's our requirements within the Ordinance 99 section that does require fill to be properly compacted.
Right.
But it's not typically something that would be reviewed at site plan. It would more or less, realistically, it would be left to the developer to have a geotechnical report conducted with borings in the vicinity of structures that would analyze the material.
We conducted significant soil borings testing, test pits, supplemental testing, so we have that if you're interested.
Because I know you mentioned soil borings around the detention pond, but
Yes.
I'm even just, are we supposed to be checking, you know? Because like I say, it's kind of like you're doing the closeout of a 99, you know, ordinance 99 thing at the same time that you're doing this. That's why it is a little unique. It's not something that we normally would look at, but it's all like what comes first, you know?
Right.
So, okay, so there's nothing we're supposed to be looking at here in this case because
No.
of that, all right?
Not to my knowledge.
And I think because it's basically a multifamily type arrangement, there are requirements for showing where the trash and recyclable receptacles are. I don't remember seeing those in the plans, and then of course once you show them, are they properly screened? You know, they get the proper enclosure around them and stuff like that. I don't see that on the plan.
Correct.
I would think this concept of the parking is a little more important than just, don't you think it needs to be seen that now maybe that encroaches into some, you know, setback or landscape, you know, area, right? If we don't really know where it is, and it is a requirement to show the parking as far as a multifamily development, so we are still lacking on that. Kind of driving, there does seem to be some decent big pieces that I don't think we'd necessarily know about. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. You know, this is, even though I know some of the stuff they addressed, and I don't know if we were officially looking at those modified ones. I think you guys did, but I don't know if it relates to what we're looking at here. It probably does, I mean, to some extent, but there's a number of pieces that seem to be missing that would normally be here in a site plan. So that was my thing. And including now, because it's in the biz district, a little more detail on the entrance is probably a requirement to make sure we're complying with that part of the biz district requirements on Brown Road there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're kind of missing that too. I mean, no matter what, we would probably made this all contingent on then the rezoning being approved, right, and all that kind of stuff, but and you're right, a lot of times we don't, but they know it's at their own risk that they're going to go forward and try to get things on the site plan. You know, normally some people do want to wait, they don't want to get into all that if they don't know they can't get the rezoning, but they did. Well, whatever. Okay, so to me, like I said, I'm bringing some of those up. Those seem to be some big pieces that aren't addressed here, and kind of makes it these are, you know, must do on a site plan. I suppose we could take up the thing about the traffic study separately, almost as we could probably make talk about that and maybe make a motion separately on that, whether we're going to accept that or not. You know, seeing the berm or whatever down here, we need to know, right? It's supposed to be a bermed in a certain height, so anyway, there seems to be a number of holes here that looks like they'll be able to do it all, but seems to be a lot for us to approve a site plan at this time. That's my opinion right now, so I'll let others speak.
Thank you. Further comments, thoughts?
My major comment is the fact that the board hasn't approved the rezoning yet. And that could change a lot, you know, if it's not approved. If it is approved, then there are some modifications that need to be done, and I guess I would like to see those to come back to us to get final send-off on them.
Thank you.
I guess I'm leaning towards a postponement.
Further thoughts, comments on postponement and/or further direction as to what you've seen before us or other things we needed in addition to photometric plan, tree study, details on the sign/wall, details on the guest parking. Is they're going to be independent trash receptacles or communal one? If so, where are the enclosures for those? Other thoughts, comments, questions, direction?
Mr. Chair, I think any one of these things, we could probably move on, in my opinion. But there's too many of them. And it sounds like the petitioner's seen the reports from Mr. Lewan and from Mark and is acting on them, but I don't think we've come to that spot where I'm comfortable approving it at this time.
Thank you. Let's take up maybe the traffic just for some further deliberation. Sounds like it may be going towards a postponement, so you have more information moving forward. I don't know if it warrants a motion in particular on that, but on the traffic impact study, I guess I'll ask Mr. Landis first a little clarification. So are we conducting as a township? Is this a joint venture with the road commission or part of the TIFA district? Or what are we studying? Who's studying it and why? And who's paying for it?
To be honest with you, I don't know all those very particular details. I understand that the township is considering taking on a comprehensive traffic study. And the thought was, since they are meeting the threshold for a traffic study, that they would contribute towards it and possibly some of the mitigating, features that might come out of it. Since we just widened Brown Road, it didn't seem apparent that there would be a whole lot of improvements right at the intersection or their entrance. It would probably be more on the outskirts, back at the Joslin or Baldwin.
Makes more sense to do a comprehensive as opposed to a individual site analysis.
Yeah. And given the two access points for this, the type of product that's proposed, the use and so forth, we've seen a lot of traffic studies for the different developments. I concur that I think the benefit would be overall towards the larger picture and impacts and how those dollars go farther. So just didn't know if there was something big in the works or a joint effort, who's studying or what the deal was.
Don't know the details yet. I can find that out.
It'd be kind of
and get back
interesting,
with you.
for this in general,
Sure.
to see what that'll help us as well as with the master plan. Again, another look at coming up, and with the developments over here, that'd be very impactful and give us some good insight as to what's going on there. And then with that, I'll ask the applicant. You've got a chance to hear some of our comments, see the different letters. Any questions for us, feedback or thoughts?
No, all great
Any
feedback.
direction, anything? Okay.
Yeah, good direction and everything makes sense.
And if I don't see any other feedback, comments, discussions, I think given the matter stated forth, we look for a motion. Unless there are comments, thoughts at this time?
Mr. Chair,
Yes. Mr. Walker.
I'll make that motion.
All right.
I moved. No. I used 3 or 4 words. I move that the Planning Commission postpones the site plan approval for PC 2019-18 Breckenridge Townhouses located at 313 Brown Road, parcel 0932-400-023-4905 Estes, parcel 0932-400-059, unaddressed land parcels 0932-400-024, 0932-400-058, 932-400-021, 0932-400-022, and a portion of unaddressed land, part of parcels 0932-400-455 and 0932-400-057 for plans date stamped received April 1st, 2019, and the 2 amended sheets date stamped received 42519 for the following reasons. The planners and engineer have a number of questions yet that remain unanswered. There are, rather than delineating those, they were read into the record by the engineer and the planner, and I recommend that we postpone this matter until those matters have been addressed.
Thank you. We have a motion, support on the motion?
Support.
Motion's support. Discussion up here on it? Just a little further feedback from my perspective, too. I know I just mentioned it briefly and it was mentioned, but for the guest parking, obviously, I know you take consideration the landscape as well, but two big things I'll be looking for, how that's kind of incorporated, and that we don't lose, any particular screen with it. I think you guys will come up with a way, given the site on there, but kind of from my perspective, you're looking at that. Any public comment on the motion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Harris.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Simon.
Yes.
Kanaskis.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Congratulations, you're postponed. We look forward to seeing you back again with some revised plans there. Date certain, sometimes we do that, but I don't think we really need to. Just sounds like you're anxious to come back, so I don't think we really need to force you or put a date on it, so.
Absolutely.
Yes, Mr. Steinle.
Would it be helpful to have action on the traffic study?
It says the traffic study's needed.
Right.
Oh, that's a good point. Forgot about that, yeah.
One for the township as a whole, or either way, it's going to be a traffic study.
That's true. No, that's true. Either way, they have to provide a traffic study, so.
Okay, so you don't want anything official that says that we're going to accept they contribute to the more comprehensive one versus an individual one. Because yes, by this size, a traffic study is required. So you guys, you're comfortable with that they're going to do something. All right. Just want to make sure.
Yeah, good. It's a requirement. I want to make sure. It's good. Thank you for that. Thank you. Going back into our agenda, our last item before us under new business, item 7C, if I recall, is PC 2019-something, -19 Skelnick Ford Annex modification to their SIT plan, I believe that's site plan, located at 95 East Clarkston Road, parcel 0911479009. Looks like we have the applicant's representative. If you state your name and address and give us an overview of this modification to this site plan.
Good evening. I'm Wade Sullivan here on behalf of Skelnick Ford. We're requesting a modification to a formerly approved site plan that was approved in September of 2017. We'd like to modify the approved site plan to allow for a 1,245 square foot addition to the existing building. The addition is within the existing portico. It extends to the west approximately 13 feet and to the east approximately 4 feet. The intent is an additional porter bay for vehicle preparation and then a rollover or drive-through car wash.
All right, thank you. Before I turn it over, well, I guess I'll save my comment till the end there. With that, let's see what other comments, letters we've received on this. Mr. Wortman, why don't you go ahead and give us an overview of your findings on this modification?
Or Luan.
Or Luan, I'm sorry. I'm looking down, looking at both of these, trying to figure out what other things we got in here.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
Although I saw Don yesterday, and he sends
is he doing good?
Sends
All right.
his, good wishes. Yeah, so the applicant did a nice job of describing the project. They're adding on to the building where there's a current covered area that, when it was a restaurant, I assume was where people would drop off folks. This is primarily auto washing, car detailing. In our review on the first page, we note the 4 conditions that the Planning Commission made to the September 16th approval. Those conditions, of course, remain in effect regardless of what we do on this project. I just want to make sure I mention that. The change as proposed, probably the biggest change that I could determine, other than the structure itself, was the change in parking. The general business uses require 1 space per 200 square feet of floor area. So if you look at the building itself, the building's not that large. So they would actually only be required to install 34 parking spaces. They are proposing Previously, when the project was approved, they were proposing 99 parking spaces. They are now proposing 85 parking spaces. The plan, I pulled out our old site plan from 2017 and found that the parking spaces that are missing were primarily employee parking. And so our question there is, has that changed, or has the need for employee parking changed? I mean, generally speaking, they've got enough parking. Is this really the difference is that they're storing vehicles on site. The vehicle storage bumps that number up, quite a bit, higher than would be required. You do know, you look at the plan, and you'll see that they have parking stacked 3 deep in a couple locations for car storage. And even if they were to change those to just typical double stacked parking spaces, they would still be have more than enough required parking on site. So that's not really an issue. But we do raise the fact that, just a question, what happened to all the employee parking, and we were wondering if that had to do with the dealership across the road, and maybe this is where they were all going to park, and maybe plans have changed. So the other thing, we note that the addition is covering about a third of the previously approved loading space. So we assume car haulers will be coming to this site. They were parking. They showed their loading space in an area on the west side of the building. The new addition will actually covers part of that loading, so they'll have to move that loading. I will mention, since I made this comment, the applicant provided a new plan. The new plan did show that loading space moved to the north, so out of the realm of the new car wash addition, and they did have some additional parking spaces labeled employee parking, but I'll let the applicant, since none of you received that plan, I don't believe, I'll let the applicant address that. But they've tried to address a couple of our comments already. So our comments here are: 1, all the conditions of September 6, 2017 would remain in effect. 2, because the addition primarily is for auto wash and auto detailing, we'd like a little more information on what that actually is and how that might affect the site. Are they recycling the water? Is this going to cause any impact on the utilities on site? So some additional information on the car wash part of the project and how that affects the site. There's a plan note that says no lighting will change on the site from the previously approved site plan, but it looks like there was some building lighting that would be covered or moved because of this from the previously approved site plan. So if in fact they're not adding any lighting, then we're fine. They had a previously approved lighting plan. However, if the lighting, if there is going to be any wall-mounted lighting on the new addition, we'd like to see that, and then that would of course require a new photometric plan as well for that, at least that part of the project. I said the applicant should address the 21 space reduction in employee parking. I think they've tried to do that, but maybe they can address that in more detail, and then relocation of the loading space. We also mentioned we wanted to make sure that this addition doesn't impact circulation in any way that would impact emergency vehicle access. And I did see an email from the fire chief today that indicated that he did not believe this car wash would impact site circulation or have a negative impact on overall site circulation. But we have these 5 items that should be addressed prior to moving this project on.
Excellent, thank you. And then, as you mentioned, we think we had one other one, the fire marshal review as well, with regards to the site. Further comments, questions up here? I'll turn back to the applicant to maybe answer some questions as to the operations interior, if he knows it, how it operates within there and the washing and so forth, or additional questions as well, Mr. Steimel?
Yeah, I don't quite see it. Talk about a drive-through car wash area. I don't see it by what we're looking at here. So.
Yeah, it's this area right here. The intent is, the intent.
Okay, so it's that southern
Yes,
area.
yeah, that the vehicles would enter from this side, exit, so that they wouldn't be any, impacting any traffic flow.
Just a single car.
Just a single car.
It's one of those ones where everything kind of goes around the car then, a small
Yes,
one.
they call it a treadle type. You pull in, the wheel hits a switch.
Right.
The brushes, or the brushes come down. You move on, you get rinsed, the blowers come on, and then you exit the device. It's just to take place of the porter's hand washing vehicles.
Okay.
So, I did do a little research on the system itself. It uses a little less than 25 gallons per wash, according to the manufacturer. It is a non-reclamation system. It's a 3-tank settlement system, so all the sediment settles in the tanks. The wastewater overflows into the building's sanitary system, but is intercepted by an oil water separator prior to the municipal system. With regard to the employee parking, I don't know how they reached the 21 employee spaces originally. There are approximately 9 employees, and I've asked the architect to, and he has revised it, but I didn't get it out in time, place 9 employee spaces along the easterly edge of the parking lot where the cursor is here. And then he reconfigured this center grouping to allow for 25 spaces. The 13 spaces for customers maintained or are the same. And then these spaces down here have not changed. So it yields about 94 spaces. It does in the end.
And they're doing the internet sales out of this? So for the customer parking, would it if someone bought a car online, or what customer's going to the annex building?
The annex is primarily body shop and service.
Okay.
So it has really nothing to do with new car sales. It's primarily service oriented.
Would they still go to the main building for general service, or is this not?
Yes,
that's
yeah,
what I thought.
yeah. It's primarily body shop service, bump and paint. So, let's see. We did shift, or we have shifted the loading, unloading, or the unloading zone to the north, approximately 45 feet of its current location. So, moved that up into this area here. And I think, let's see, we don't have any intent of any additional building mounted lighting. We'd be happy to, address that. I believe that's it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Question.
Mr. Walker.
How many washes a day do you think you'll be running
I
through there?
wasn't able to reach Mr. Skelnick regarding that. There are 2, I know of 2 of these units that are in use in Orion Township currently, without issue or impact to the infrastructure. But a guess was around 1,000 gallons per day, 40 vehicles, based upon others' usage in the community.
And there's no reclamation way of doing that?
There's no reclamation. I mean, there is a reclamation process available, but I think that the cost and the maintenance is just a huge headache. I think that the impact as far as water usage is probably far less than the restaurant that was there, used in the past, but.
Can you get a good pizza at the car wash?
We can bring it there.
It's a drive-through. Okay. Because that restaurant did have good pizza.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other thoughts, comments?
So we checked, Doug, when we added 4 foot to the east, we're still got the proper setbacks to the property line stuff?
Yes.
Everything's still good?
Yeah.
So our setbacks are good?
Yep.
All right.
And we don't have any issue with regards to what you've seen on the revised parking? Seems like they have ample, as we talked about, and as the applicant's representative described, it seems to lay out just fine.
Yeah, I don't have any concern with number of spaces.
Or how they're labeling them.
It's just how it was,
Yeah,
it's how it was
they're labeling
labeled,
them.
and
Yeah.
maybe something changed. I was just curious
Yeah.
where all the employee parking went to.
Yeah.
From the site plan, things look pretty good, except for some of the parking, the very southern grouping there. If you're just looking at the site plan, remember the lot line is actually to the right of the shaded area, so isn't that parking too close to the?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
It
was
was-
there.
I know it was existing.
It was existing, and this is the same layout as we did in our other,
Okay.
last time, so I think I don't have my old review in front of me, but I'm sure
Okay.
we talked, I remember talking about that.
Well, like I said, from the site plan stuff, we're pretty good. Obviously, you should be aware, there's a lot of dispute about that shaded area.
I understand.
That really isn't part of this site plan, but then the way you're actually using it.
Yeah,
Dovetails.
that was prior to my involvement, but I do understand that there was, yes.
You know, I sure wish you'd use the property as shown here only, you know.
Right.
It would really eliminate that.
Right.
So then the only other thing would be, it looks like we can get into that car wash. There's enough room, you know, it's hard because it's not scaled. And it's like 20-some feet, so.
Yeah, should be
You know,
plenty of turns.
because obviously a car would come in from the south and hang
Yeah.
right into that and then come out the east side, I'm guessing,
Yes.
probably.
Yes.
Pull in and do its thing and.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is similar ones you see more like by a gas station, you know, you can go to a gas station and you pay an extra $1 or something and they'll
Right.
let you go into the car wash, and I get tired, I have to push the no on my menu every time, but I don't want that. Or I go get some, it's kind of annoying.
Yes.
Which the default was
They
no.
asked for it.
Yeah, you know, but anyway, so there's enough room, so it looks like all that would work, we're still okay. So I guess the changes are okay.
Ready for a motion?
I am. If there's any other thoughts, comments, deliberation? Seeing none, I'll entertain one. Still the opportunity.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Planning Commission grant site plan approval for PC 2019-19 Skolnick Ford Annex, which is a site plan modification of a previously approved site plan for property located at 95 East Clarkson Road, for the plan state stamped and received April 30. Is that the latest plans? Or you want the
Yeah,
April
looks
4?
like Oh,
The latest submitted plans. Sure. Just so that we got it correct.
So having seen the reviews, they quickly tried to demonstrate that they could take care of the issues and emailed it to me, which is the one you have date stamped the 30th, which would have the most recent updates based on the reviews. It has not been re-reviewed thoroughly, but would be the more accurate plan for them resolving the issues Mr. Lewan.
Of the April 30 plan. Since the plan has been reviewed by our consultants and staff and meets all ordinance requirements.
Thank you. Motion, is there support on the motion?
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion?
What was that last part that you said? Because I haven't reviewed the new plan yet.
Well, from your previous discussions, though,
Oh,
that you've reviewed the previous plan,
the previous plan, yes,
not the latest.
correct.
Any public comment on the motion?
Phil Christie, 2650 Buckner Road. I own the property in front of the Skolnick Ford bump shop, And I'm not against his car wash there, that's fine. I just wish that he would follow the site plan, which I think Mr. Steinman was sort of going towards. And he just, there's no code enforcement. When I sent code enforcement up there, the embattled supervisor, Chris Barnett, stepped in and called me a meeting with us and had Tammy over there and was just saying bizarre, crazy things that he's on the old Christie's site plan. That's what he told me. Sat me down in there in that office or that room upstairs there and told me he was, running a business under the old Christie's site plan. He doesn't follow this site plan at all. I mean, there's vehicles all over that lot. There's supposed to be a specific number parked there, and they're just all over the place. You can barely get through those aisles there. And he's all over that easement there, and he's not supposed to be parked on that easement. Like I said, I'm not against his car wash. But, let's have the man follow the site plan. I mean, we don't need a possibly, embattled, corrupt supervisor stepping in to this every time that he won't, poor Dave Goodlow, he's got his hands tied. He can't do anything because this supervisor, who Rich, Skalnick told me right from the get-go that, he helped him get elected. He knew him. He told me that. I had a deal with Rich before my brother sold the restaurant to him. He wanted my property. And he told me about Chris Barnett. And, that's all. I just want the site plan. It's fine the way it is. I don't care about a car wash. That's great. But just have him have as many vehicles as are supposed to be on the lot and get off my easement. What do I need that for? I mean, you're the consultant, Mr. Doug. You know what I'm saying? He's parked all over my easement. So what are we going to, like I said, I don't care if you approve the car wash. That's fine. He can do what he wants on his property. Just get off mine. Follow the site plan. Cars are parked all over the place there. And like I said, every time I step in, we got this embattled supervisor, with his whatever, stepping in and, bringing Tammy to the meetings. He had the attorney Kelly over there. I said a couple things to Kelly, and I didn't see that. Oh, well, I told him, I said, one of the light poles is on my property. It's not even on the easement, one of the light poles. Oh, well, what kind of attorney is that? I mean, I read about the Petoskey incident with those guys. What kind of leadership do we have in this township? Anyways, to sum it up, please, guys, if you're going to approve this, just make sure he follows the site plan as approved by September 6th, 2017. That's 2 years now. And he hasn't, they haven't followed that site plan at all. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Any other comments? And again, we'll be approving this modified site plan. Hopefully all things are, in conformance, with what's brought forward tonight. Roll call, please.
Steinle?
Yes.
Tenascus?
Yeah, yes.
Gross?
Yes.
Garris?
Yes.
Walker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
Moving on, rounding out the agenda, item number 8 is our unfinished business. We have no unfinished business before us this evening. Leads to item number 9, which is for public comments. Any member of the public like to make a comment, please step forward. Sure, and state your name and address again for the record and address the commission.
Eugene McNab, 2981 Judah. I'm going to go back just a little while. When the pit started, they were running on Ordinance 40. And in 98, it went through the Planning Commission, it went through the ZBA, and it went through the Township Hall and created an Ordinance 99 and gave 2 pits the right to operate. And we have the map that was issued, which is the permit. Well, that worked for a while. And in 08, the ZBA took my property off the pit. The ZBA can only control ordinances and zoning. They cannot remove any piece of property off from a permit that was issued by the Planning Commission and the Township Hall. But they took it off. And this created a problem. So now, Dan don't want to level my property off because it's not on the permit. And any permit that they issued is a renewal of the permit. It's not a new permit. To get a new permit, they got to go back through you. And they issued a renewal on the pit ever since. And in 2012, the main board spent $4,800 to update the pit. And OHM made the map. And the map says 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 is part of Dan's permit. Now, this went to court. Because we went to court because they weren't balancing the property off as they went. They're supposed to, when they finish one piece of property, they're supposed to balance it off. Well, it went to court, and the court said, no, we'll leave that up to the township to make the decision when it's to be balanced off. So I lost that case because I wanted it balanced off. And that's the ruling that was made in front of Judge Potts, and that's the ruling that they're using right today. Well, I say in 99, or in 12 was when they made the new map. The township paid the $4,800 to make it, and it shows the property on it. Then it went to court again, the Court of Appeal, the Michigan Court of Appeals. And the Michigan Court of Appeals says that the entire pit will be leveled off at 1060. That's what it says. Well, my property is on the map, and even the map that the township made. But the township can't seem to find this map or this court ruling that was made by the Court of Appeals. So they're still arguing that, and now the township wants to get out of it and make it a civil matter. But it's not a civil matter because the Court of Appeals gave the township the right to do whatever they wanted to till the pit was closed. But it said when the pit is closed, it has to be 1060, and it has to have a certified statement that that pit is leveled off at 1060. And so now we're in all this kind of trouble again, and it all started with the ZBA. And it isn't I can't say it's the ZBA's fault, because the chairman wasn't there that night, and one of your famous people, Matthew Gibbs, was on the board, was on the ZBA board. And he told the ZBA that I can give you this legal opinion. The legal opinion is wrong if you want to read the ZBA. He has no right to even give a legal opinion because he's not the attorney for the township. But his legal opinion was wrong, but he gave it to him as a legal opinion. So they changed the way they voted. And that's when they took my property off, and this is where everything has been all messed up for all these years. I've been fighting it, and now the township don't want to fight it because they don't want to buck Dan. They want me to fight Dan. Well, I'm not going to fight Dan myself. That's my goal. I'm going to fight the township because the Court of Appeals says it has to be leveled off at 1060. And if anybody wants a copy of that Court of Appeals, I'll give it to them. Or the township has it, so you can just get it from the township hall. So this is the kind of stuff we get into. And he knows that I've been fighting it all these, that's why I'm saying it right here, and she's saying it right there, and I'm not, I'll say it in front of anybody, because I know I'm right. And if anybody don't think I'm right, let them give me their answer why I'm not right. Nobody's got that answer.
Thank you.
Hi, Mark Steck, 3084 Judah. Just wanted to make two comments, just kind of from what I heard about with the rezoning. Let's assume that the Township Board does approve the rezoning that was in question tonight. And then talking about coming back and doing the master plan. So I think you're kind of getting the things a little backwards. The master plan needs to drive the zoning ordinance, and other than the zoning ordinance driving the master plan. So what's going to happen, this property is likely to be rezoned, and then when the master plan comes along, obviously, the master plan is going to say, let's do this. I would, if that's the way, I would encourage you to just go ahead with the master plan, to look at that, just go ahead and extend the biz right up to that pipeline. It would make sense. Then we'd be okay on that. But please make sure that the master plan drives the zoning and not the other way around. That's just good, solid planning. I would also like to comment on you guys talked about a traffic impact study. I sure hope that you will, if the township is paying for traffic impact studies for private developments, I hope that's not happening. If you're not sure, you simply could make a motion. Please make sure that the developer pays for their own traffic impact study. It's fully within the right. The township should review that, not be paying for traffic impact studies for private developments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Seeing none. Go ahead and close the public comment, and we'll go on to item number 10, our communications. No formal communications that I saw in this packet or this last 2 weeks. Committee reports, we had some site walk reports that were part of our packets for some of the items that were before us tonight. I don't see any other committee reports. Lead us to item number 12, which is our future public hearings. We do have one. So item number 12A, we have a public hearing scheduled for May 15th of 2019, scheduled for 7:05, and this is for PC 2019-20. This is for the Orion Classic Car Club. It's a conditional rezoning request to rezone an eastern portion of 3030 South Lapeer Road, parcel 0926-101-015 from general business to general business with conditions in an eastern portion of an unaddressed parcel 0926-101-009 from single family residential 2, which is our R2, to our general business with some conditions. So again, that's set for May 15th at 7:05. Item 13, Chairman's comments. No comments this evening for myself. I'll start on my left this evening. Mr. Garris, any comments from you this evening?
Nope, all set.
All right, Mr. Walker, anything?
I have a paid advertisement or advertisement for the Orion Public Library. Our semi-quarterly annual book sale is not this weekend, but the weekend after. At least 5,000 or 6,000 books are waiting to be purchased at a ridiculously small amount of money, anywhere from 50 cents to $1. So come one, come all, and buy some books and become learned.
All right. Thank you. What's the date on that? Next, Mr. Gross, any comments?
No, sir.
All right. Mr. Steimel, any comments?
None really, other than, I had to look that up just now, the 3030. Where is that? It's right just north of Walden Road off of Lapeer. So it's probably that old.
Little flower shop. I just looked it up too. Yeah, I wasn't starting to think which one it was.
It was like, okay, where is this?
On the west side of the street?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, okay, so now I know where it's at.
I was wondering myself.
I really don't know what's going in there, but
Classic car, something, right? Yeah. Mrs. Gerling. Mr. Time, we'll see if you have any other comments. If not, I'll invite Mrs. Gerling up.
Late.
Yep, she was already rolling.
I'm just on the way. I'm not there yet.
Just a couple things. If you remember from when we had our joint meeting with the Planning Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, CIA, and the Township Board, there was a discussion of conducting that type of meeting more than once a year. So it's been decided we would like to do it again in October, and we're looking at the October 23rd date. And I know not many people probably have plans that far in advance, but we're looking at setting that date. So if you would please mark it in your calendar. If anyone knows of any conflictions with that date right now, please tell me. And then the second issue, I met with Supervisor Burnett after that meeting, and if you remember, we discussed about the pre-apps, and that he wanted to see who was interested in attending the pre-apps from the Planning Commission meeting on a rotating basis. So as you're leaving, if you'll let me know if you're interested or not, so I can get back to him. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in support? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Nay? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.